It all started with a very simple idea. Tell the stories of how successful middle market CEOs made it to the corner office. I'm Brant Handley, founder and managing director of Resource Options International, or ROI. We're the USA's premier executive search firm focused exclusively on empowering middle market companies to attract, hire, and retain A players while transforming top executives' careers and lives. ROI's Into the Corner office is dedicated to discovering how middle market CEOs advance their career, and we're making these remarkable and sometimes quite unbelievable stories available to you for the very first time. Listen and learn about the challenges they've overcome, the interesting people they've met along the way, and the lessons learned that steered these executives' unique journey into a middle market corner office of their own. I know you enjoy these CEO stories as much as I've enjoyed recording them. So thank you for listening today. And if you like what you've heard, rate us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm looking forward to you joining me on the next great middle market CEO adventure into the corner office. My guest today is CEO Matt Lorenzo. Matt has proven to drive his industry in both innovation and design. Under his leadership, TYR Sport has secured major national partnerships with USA Swimming, USA Water Polo, US Masters Swimming, and over 55 universities and colleges. Matt is a graduate of Villanova University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Finance and Economics. Matt Lorenzo, welcome into the corner office.
Thanks, Brent. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. We like to start these podcasts with just getting a little bit of background and understanding, with the CEOs that have been our guests, kind of deeper background story. Tell us a little bit about your early years. Where'd you grow up and what was your family life like?
So I grew up in a suburb outside of New York City, and my family life revolved around swimwear for my whole life. My parents started this business 32 years ago.
Your dad must be Joseph then, right?
Yes, my dad.
Yeah, I saw that on the website, so I was wondering if it was a family business. Cool.
Yeah, it is a family business, which has its pluses and minuses, of course. But yeah, I grew up outside New York City. Great family, two great sisters, and the family worked. I had a working mother, and it was great. I learned a lot by being with my parents. Went to high school here, and then eventually went on to Villanova to study kind of business and finance.
Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. Were you a swimmer yourself? Did everybody swim in the family? What was kind of the attraction of swimwear?
No, we are not swimmers. I played football and baseball growing up, and my sister was a musician. My father had gotten into swimming when he'd partnered with a man by the name of Steve Furness, who is an Olympic swimmer. So yeah, I wasn't a swimmer, although I do swim now. Swimming wasn't something that we grew up in as a team sport.
Right. Just was more of a business direction. And mom and dad were both involved in the business?
Mom and dad were and still are both involved in the business.
Okay, cool. And you said you have two sisters or one?
I have two sisters. I have an older sister and a younger sister.
Okay, you're the middle child.
I'm the middle child and the only boy.
Are your siblings involved in the business as well?
No, they're not involved in the business. No.
So tell us a little bit about some of the early influencers in your life. Obviously, mom and dad had a big role, but were there others, mentors or perhaps coaches, folks that had some influence on your direction?
I had a great college professor who was my finance professor, and I took as many classes as I could with him, Dr. Olson at Villanova. And I also did an independent study with him on some statistical economic stuff. And he was a great influence. He spoke about bringing value in all of your dealings. So, everything that you do, bring value to it so that you kind of prove your worth, and that, relationships are like a bank. There are credits and debits, and make sure that you fill that up and you don't just take from it. So those are lessons that I learned early on, and that was some of the best advice I got, because I was always, thinking in a manner of reciprocity, not just kind of taking all the time. Hey, what can I get from this person or whatever? But like, what am I actually giving? In a we should both benefit from our dealings together. This 1 + 1 = 3 type of thought, instead of just kind of, hey, what can I get out of this? What can I get out of it? So,
Kind of a pay
you
it
know,
forward type of an approach. Would
yeah,
that be accurate?
exactly. A pay it forward type of approach, an empathetic type of approach. He was a man of faith, so he was, coming from a place of gratitude quite a bit, and those things were instilled in me early, and that's why I loved I love Professor Olson for that, because
Yeah, awesome,
yes,
awesome.
yeah. So
Going back to your earlier years, kind of elementary, middle school, were you a good student?
I was a good student in the things that I enjoyed,
That you liked.
that I liked. I wasn't.
That I laugh because there are so many CEOs that say the same thing. Yeah, I excelled at the things that I really enjoyed. Didn't do too
Yeah,
well the ones I didn't.
the things I didn't enjoy, I had a hard time. Um, you know, I had a hard time getting into. I needed to understand why I was taking a subject matter, or I needed to feel like there was a purpose. Like, to be honest, I wasn't a great math student in high school until I kind of understood its meaning for what I'm going to be using it for later on in life, and then I got a statistical economics degree. So it's like I needed to see the value. I wasn't able to just say, hey, this is on the test, so I'm gonna memorize it. I
Excel at
didn't
it.
I
Yeah.
didn't do well. I didn't do well.
So you mentioned sports. Football, was it? What were your outside sports you're involved with?
Football, baseball, mostly like team ball sports.
Played all the way
Played all
through
the way
high
through,
school.
yeah, through high school.
Any aspirations for college sports at all, or
I was not that talented, sadly.
okay, you played more for
But
enjoyment?
yeah, but it was great. I had a lot of friends on both teams, and like the camaraderie, and learning how to kind of play your role, because I wasn't a superstar on the team by any means, but still being able to do your role and be a valued
Part of the team.
part of the
Yeah,
team was
yeah.
something, because eventually people rely on you. So being able to do what you're supposed to do well, and not kind of compromise the team effort was important.
Any other interests? Music, theater, politics.
Um, Music. I played the guitar since I was 9 years old. Played in some bands in high school. My sister's more of the musician these days, but yeah, music was always a way to like relax, get out of my head. I still play to this day. It's
Good.
just a way
You playing a
to.
band?
I play with a bunch of guys to kind of goof around. Nothing
Right,
too
right.
serious. We don't have
Just
enough.
jam.
Just
Yeah.
jam. We don't have enough time, but yeah, just maybe once a week, get the juices flowing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Nice kind of way to take the brain in another direction.
for sure.
Entrepreneurial things. It sounds like you were probably involved in the family business. Tell us a little bit about that, or any other kind of outside things. Again, back during those elementary, middle school days. Did you have the paper route? Did you sell things at Christmas, or did Dad and Mom pretty much keep you on the payroll, paid or otherwise, with helping with the business?
I wasn't on the payroll on the early years.
I can imagine. You
I
work
was
for your
not.
board, right?
Yeah, I worked a lot in the family business, going from. Yeah, I worked in every department. I spent my summers here.
When did you start? When was your earliest memory of working in the business, family
It's
business?
it's so it's so early. I can't remember exactly when, but I mean, I've been I have had to have been here since I was 9 or 10. I mean,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
working necessarily, but just hanging out, and I wanted to be part of it. It was really fascinating and interesting to me. There was always stuff going on, new people. I mean, for a kid, you think about like all the colors and the fabrics and the machines and the yarns, and I was just it was like a wonderland. I used to you know hang out in the cutting rooms, and kind of play with the fabrics, and pull them out, and it was exciting. So
Has it always just been a manufacturing business? Was there ever a retail component?
so we don't manufacture here. We have a large sample room here. But no, Tier is Tier has a large retail, I guess, distribution. So that it's always been. It isn't just manufacturing. There's a retail component as well.
And so when you were growing up, it was more in the sample room and kind of putting together the swatches and the various things and so forth. Was that what you recall?
Yeah, whether it be that, whether it be inspecting fabric, laying fabric out, a short stint in cutting fabric, which was kind of terrifying. because it's this big machine and you kind of have to cut around the pattern pieces. And I remember thinking, wow, like you're supposed to wear these gloves, and these guys don't wear the gloves, and they could literally just take your finger off. But
Oh,
yeah, it was everything, to working in the sewing room, to sweeping the sewing room, to making one-off samples of suits. I asked if I could be of use all the time. Hey, what can I help with?
mm.
What can I help with? Probably was annoying now that I think about it to some people, but I wanted to be part of it. And
Very
it just was
proactive.
part of the family kind of DNA. That's what we always talked about. Um, in the early years, the business wasn't very large, so a lot of the employees would come over to the house or they'd stay at the house. So there was always stuff going on. So as a kid, it was always very exciting, and that drew me to wanting to be in the business.
So no other outside types of things like, retail jobs or paper routes or anything like that. You were pretty much,
I mean, when I was younger, I caddied.
yeah.
Which was I caddied for a few summers, um, which was an interesting job. I enjoyed it. I mean, I played golf somewhat. I wouldn't say a great golfer, but it was a good gig. I learned a lot about kind of uh, managing people, actually, because it's interesting when people get they're either exuberant, or they're very upset playing golf. So it was always interesting to try and you have to work through sometimes people not having the best day on the course, but you still had to do your job, and you still had to be positive. And the thing that'd be crazy is they'd make some sort of a shot, and their luck would change, and then their emotions would change. So you had to it kept me even. I
Good
learned how to be like
observations. Yeah.
yeah, I learned how to be even.
When did you go on the payroll at Tier Sports?
Um, I went on the payroll right after college.
Okay, got it.
Right after college, I came in. I'd actually been thinking about going to Wall Street. All through college, I'd interned at a hedge fund, and I'd really enjoyed it. But I was coming out of college in 2008, and the financial
Oh
landscape
boy, that was
was.
a tough year to graduate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was, and it was, I'd been interning all through college, so from 2005, so from 2005 to 2006, it was amazing. Just, this is what
Right,
I'm going to be.
right.
This is what I'm going to
Particularly in the
do.
financial area.
Yeah,
Right,
this is
right.
what I'm going to do. This is the direction I like to go. And then I saw, oh my God, the world turned, and said, I don't know if I can, it was exciting, but not the excitement that I, really wanted to be a part of. The volatility was a little overwhelming at that age. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do the family business, and I'm happy I did, because it's been a great road since then.
That was nice you had that there. Was it kind of a foregone conclusion that you'd go to college? Did mom and dad have degrees?
There were times where I didn't think that I would necessarily need to go to college, but my parents wanted me to go to college, and they challenged me not to necessarily come into the family business, to make sure that I really wanted to come into the family business. And that was my mother's request, and I think she was right. I think if I would have come into the family business early, it would have been the only thing I ever did know, and I don't think that would have been the best. But she said, go out, see what else is out there. You might like something else. Don't get trapped here too quickly. You can always come back. So, but I mean, I had always known that this was something that I really wanted to do, especially tier. I mean, the component of uh, you know being able to make product and work with Olympic athletes, the appeal was just amazing. So I tried to find other interests. I tried to find other things. I tested other things, but nothing really, nothing drew me to itself, except here.
Yeah, cool. Villanova, great school. What did you study?
So I double majored in finance and economics.
Uh-huh.
So I'd
Kind of knew
originally
you wanted a business background.
I thought I was going to be going to Wall Street, so I did finance, and I figured that, oh, enough credits, or if I take a few more credits here, here, and here, I could still finish in 4 years and get an economics degree. And the professor that I've been working with in finance, he said, listen, if you really want to understand business, go into economics. It's the mother discipline of all of this. I said, I took his advice, and I added a few courses, so I had a heavy workload. But the economics degree is something that I'm really happy that I got, because that knowledge just helped me understand how markets move and how people think, and kind of you know the psychology behind everything, and that was super helpful.
Yeah, that was Professor Olson, right?
Yes.
And what were the kinds of courses you took from him?
So he was my finance professor. So for him, I took you know advanced finance and intro to finance. I took mergers and acquisitions.
But quite a few, it sounds like. You really enjoyed it. Yeah, yeah.
Quite a few. I mean, yeah, yeah. And then we did an independent study, analyzing, trying to make kind of an algorithm for picking stocks, which didn't actually work out that well at the end of our study. But we tried to analyze some data, on creating an algorithm to do some kind of short-term trading. So yeah, we didn't get we only had one semester to really do it, so it didn't take off quite like we'd wanted. But it was definitely interesting to think more on the quant side of the financial investment. But at the end of the day, managing people and being more hands-on was, I think, something I really enjoy.
That sounds like he had a pretty big impact. Yeah, is he still teaching today? Are you still in touch with him?
I have lost touch with him. I'm not sure, but I could check. No,
He left an imprint.
he certainly did. He certainly did. I had a few professors that left an imprint. Villanova was definitely a extremely positive experience. I'm not sure if I appreciated it during it. I definitely knew it was good while I was going through it. But looking back at it, I'm happy that I went to university and made that choice. I mean, granted, my parents were able to pay for it, so that allows me to go. I don't know if I would have gone if I'd be straddled with the amount of debt that I would have had to have taken on. But I mean, the experience from an educational standpoint was significant and definitely helped shape the way I think today.
And so, first job out of college, back to tier sports. Did you go right into a management position? Were you kind of rotating through different, departments to learn about the business? Tell us about how that, was structured when you came into the family business.
Sure. So the family business has multiple kind of departments. Tier Sport is one brand under kind of our larger holding company. So we also do licensed designer swimwear, and the brands have changed over since I first started. But I wasn't exactly sure that I wanted to go into. I didn't know where I wanted to go yet or where I would fit in. I had a finance degree, I had an economics degree. That I didn't have. I wasn't coming from a place of management. I had never managed people, so I did start kind of rotating through the departments. I worked on our international business initially when I first came in, because I kind of thought that that's where my educational background would take me. But eventually, I found my way into making product and the product department, and that's kind of where I I I started to really um, to build out my impact on the company, was to analyze our product and do our merchandising and our segmentation, and start to think about how we innovate and make differentiated product for the market. And that's where I eventually found myself a few years into my journey here.
Matt, do you remember the first time you started managing people?
A few years in, I started managing people. It started with in that design department. There was a product manager at the time, and I managed one person. And from there, we kind of built out the department as we started to build out more and more product. So it was at that time, Tier had probably a third of the employees it does now. Um, we were I was managing a few designers who are actually still with me
Yeah,
today.
cool.
So
And they were probably with the company some time. Older than you, I probably imagine, right?
Not so they weren't with the company too long. Slightly older than me, but not too much older. But yeah, a bit. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely managed. For the most part, I was managing people. Once I got deeper into the role, I started to manage people who were older than me, which is definitely a interesting dynamic.
Particularly given a family business and, they worked for dad or mom before, right?
Yes.
Any lessons from those early management experiences?
If I could go back and talk to myself, I would tell myself to be a little bit more empathetic
Yeah.
and less driven. I think I was kind of right out of school and super ambitious, and I think placing a little bit of my drive on everyone because I had a lot of goals, and now I I still am very ambitious, but I come to realize there's certain people that you can manage to push in a certain way, and there are other people don't necessarily have that drive. I think most people have ambition and drive, but it depends on everyone is different.
Yeah, I don't mean to speak for you, but I know for me, early on, I kind of treated everybody the same way, right? Because you think everybody's got that same level of drive, and you learn over time that you just can't take a cookie cutter approach to management.
No, everyone's different, and everyone has characteristics that you need to be aware of. I agree. I kind of went in with, this is my management style, this is the way I do it, and you
Get
fit
used
in.
to me.
Yeah, basically you fit into my, and that just doesn't
Right,
it just
right.
doesn't work, and
That's correct.
it doesn't get you where it causes so much friction. So the being empathetic to your employees is important.
Gosh, if we could all go back and speak to our younger selves. I love that. How would you say your leadership style has evolved over time beyond what you just mentioned?
Naturally, the business has grown. So initially, my management style was hands-on. I wouldn't want to call it micromanaging because I do want people to be able to do their job. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want someone to do a task and then me come in at the last minute and say, "Oh, why'd you do it this way? Why don't you do it this?" I should have been there in the beginning to give the instruction. Why waste their time? But as it's grown, I've had to empower people more and trust in their ability, which honestly has been a challenge because I was so used to doing so much that when empower people, you have to let them go and you have to trust in them. So I wouldn't say I was idle, but you have more time you know to think about how are they doing, and you have to just trust that they're gonna do the job, and they do. I mean and as but initially during that transition, it's are they doing what you want? Was I clear in speaking to them about how I wanted this done or what the vision of the company is or what we're trying to achieve here? So I had to go from, you know, I had to think about how I was communicating and was I communicating effectively? Because I can say something, but if it's not interpreted, the
The way
right
you
way,
need it to be.
we can go, and that was a hard lesson initially because I don't think I communicated as effectively as I could have, and I think it's inefficient. So coming up with processes to make sure that we're on the same wavelength is important.
How many employees now at Tier Sports?
About 150.
150. So it's about 50 or so at the time when you joined. Yeah, big change. You spoke a little bit about micromanagement. How do you decide if it's time to micromanage or when to stay out of the sandbox?
It's a case by case basis. For the most part, we have really great employees here, so I don't really micromanage. It's I guess if it's like if there's a crisis, but we don't. I haven't had to micromanage in quite a while. We have a good team and we have some good processes in place that there are checkpoints along the way that so that we check in with each other to say are we on the correct path. So it's not as though I think micromanaging comes in when there isn't a clear vision and there isn't a purpose stated.
Or
But
clearly communicated, as you mentioned earlier.
exactly. So micromanaging. I think if you're micromanaging, a lot of people say, "Oh, the employees aren't doing it right," or if you want something done right, you have to do it yourself. I don't think that's true at all. I think that's an ego trip, to be honest. So I think if you can articulate clearly the vision and you empower your employees, they should you that's what makes up a great company. It's the people that work there. I mean, it's the people that work there, and it's the product that you make together as a group. So an organization, it's a living organism. It's out of it, it's way bigger than me. It's bigger than anybody here. So like you have to think to yourself, if you're micromanaging, what does that say about you as a leader? Because I think unless someone asks for help or they're really struggling, for the most part, you can you don't really need to micromanage ever.
Yeah, so true. The company's grown obviously exponentially since you've taken over, or obviously since the time you've joined and as it's grown. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts on building a company culture. Has that culture evolved as well? And, what do you do and how important is that as part of, TYR Sports' continued success?
Company culture is is extremely important. We spend the vast majority of our time as individuals at work. So so the you know, work has to be a place where you want to come. You feel like there's purpose in your work. There's meaning in your work. So we at TYR it's a family business. So we want people to feel like they're part of a family, like they're part of a community, that they're part of something bigger. It's not we're not corporate. It's not it's working for a family business in the private sector is very different than working in corporate America, and that's a culture that we promote. I mean, we're kind of relaxed here, not too relaxed, but make it. We want to make it a welcoming place and an exciting place.
Yeah, very important. What do you look for when you're making bets on the people you invest in?
I think when we look for people, it's we look for people who are eager to progress or to do more. We want people who are ambitious. A lot of the people at TYR uh, have risen up kind of through the ranks as part of our culture. We don't really hire too much from the outside over the top. It's a lot of uh, it yeah, exactly. Coming up it's coming up the ladder. So people who've been here have been here since the beginning with me, when we started to really grow, and we always look to promote internally first. That's for sure. It's never so there's always I'm always trying to create a roadmap of opportunity. So if you're doing a great job, you're going to get the shot to be the manager over me bringing somebody in, because I want to reward the loyalty to the brand, because it's important, and it's worked out really well because we've had some people who started out here, as uh, entry level
Kind of lower
employees, and
level, yeah, entry level
yeah,
jobs.
and now 10 years later they're managing full on departments.
That's
So
awesome. Yeah, yeah, really grown up. So it truly is a family business in that sense. They've been an important part of your company family over that period of time.
absolutely.
And when you do bring people in from the outside, do you get involved into the interviewing beyond obviously the people that would report directly to you?
I don't. So the people that work directly for me, I mean, we go through. I'll kind of observe from afar, but I again empower the employees to make the decision. We have some things that we look for, but I don't interview anymore. I used to quite a bit, but now
It's
we
just
let
too big.
it,
Yeah,
yeah, we let the managers interview. If feel that way they take ownership of it, as
sure,
opposed to me saying,
absolutely.
I think this person's great for you, here you go. No, you go through the process, you pick who you like, and then if it works out, that you can take the responsibility. That's excellent. And if it doesn't, then you have to look at what happened, what do. So there's accountability in that process. So and it's a learning experience, as opposed to me coming in and saying, look, do this, this, and this. That doesn't benefit us long term. The idea is the managers and people grow, and the organization fosters that growth. For me to think that I can come in and you know, I don't necessarily know who, better than someone running their department, how to run their department. So I mean, it's a collaboration.
They have to have ownership in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you delegate that. That's great. When was the last time you hired someone that reported directly to you from the outside?
quite a while ago.
Yeah,
I
no,
ha
that's
I
cool.
haven't. I would say, my C-suite I put together has been almost 7 or 8 years
That's
now.
awesome.
So I
Awesome. And
haven't
mostly all
hired.
internal.
Mostly all internal. Yeah, actually all internal. And no one started. I didn't have a C-suite when there was no C-suite when I first started. So it was some people from different departments, and they wanted to step up. They asked to step up. They asked to do more, and I said, okay, we'll give it a let's do it, and it's worked out. So I haven't. No, I we really grow internally. That's our a big philosophy of ours, which is if you've been here, you know the business. There isn't a learning curve. The people know you. It's the next man up type of approach. It's like a football approach, but we believe in our employees, so I don't need to go out and necessarily go grab just so and so talent, and because when we do promote from within, the culture grows.
Matt Lorenzo, you've been very, very generous with your time. We appreciate that today. We have one last question, one that we ask all the CEOs. And, what career and life advice would you give to someone that, has their eyes on the corner office or maybe wants to be an entrepreneur or come into a family business like yourself and make it to leading that organization?
I think you have to ask why do you want to be here? Because if you're coming in for notoriety, or if you're coming in for money, or to have a house or a car, whatever it may be, that's the wrong reason, and that's not. I don't think that you'll find fulfillment within the position. I think that the fulfillment comes from growing growing an organization and growing a culture and growing a business kind of as a community. So, I would, understanding your why and being super clear on I want to be in a management position because is, I think, extremely important, because I think oftentimes people romanticize about how amazing it is to be an executive, and it's a challenging position, and there's a lot of dealing with people on a personal level, and that that can be sometimes challenging. So you have to, I think, understanding your why, which is
Having the right
important in
reasons.
everything,
Yeah.
is so just question why, and if the reasons align and you're in a good place, then certainly pursue it. But knowing why you want to do it, I think, is important.
Matt, thank you so much and best of luck and continue to grow TYR Sports.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Into the Corner Office with Brant Hanley. We hope you enjoyed hearing our guest CEO story as much as we did. If you want to hear more CEOs reveal their journey into the corner office, please subscribe via iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. For more information about Brant, Resource Options International, and the mighty middle market, visit www.goforroi.com. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode.